Yeah, but if you do that,
Yeah, that's why I don't want to
because
rip the skin off.
as soon as you open it up, that's when like the air
Oh
hits it,
yeah,
and that's when it burns.
exactly. That's why I don't want to try.
What were you doing?
So my weed eater is kind of weird. My girlfriend's mom
You don't want to eat.
borrow it, and like you have to twist. It's all twisting, and gave me a blister.
Hmm.
I need to turn me up a little bit.
2. How about now? Is that better? Check, 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 check. Good.
I think that'll work. Oh yeah, that's better.
Choke up on the mic some.
Choke up. What? See on one hand, you're always like, dude, don't get close to the mic. Your mouth breathing into it. Then on the other,
There's a
you're
sweet
like,
spot.
I don't know the sweet spot. It's not like I've been doing this for fucking 5 years.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Jesus has nothing to do with it, but he does have everything to do with this. Is episode 195 of the Herpeticulture Podcast, which is part of the Herpeticulture Network, which is brought to you by. Check them out: Facebook, Instagram, BlackBox Cages. If you go to blackboxcages.com, say you want to buy yourself a rack, buy yourself a cage, and you end up getting all the way to checkout, in the discount code section, put the letters THN in there. Save yourself a little bit of money. Our gift to you.
Yes.
We need to get up there and get our stuff.
How are we going? Is that what we talked about?
I don't know. I was thinking about it. I don't know. I guess this weekend.
I mean, possibly not.
Because Saturday, like I got the castle too.
Does that mean you want the castle, or does that mean you want to try and go to Black Box?
I don't have anything planned except rodents, but
All right.
I don't know. It's
I
up.
mean,
It's no big deal if we move it to the following weekend.
yeah.
Oh wait, no. Saturday I got a thing that evening, so
No.
never mind.
Never mind. All right. Well, we can try and shoot for next Saturday then.
We doing the running back.
Yeah, I figure may as well. Tell them all that. Just run there, run back, leave super early. You think if we leave by like 6,
Yeah,
then hang out there for a little bit, leave by noon, be back by 4:35.
I reckon.
We can
I
do
don't
it.
know, but
We can make
looking
it
forward
happen.
to getting my stuff.
Yeah. Super looking forward to it.
Much needed. And then Steve Snaketuary and his Venom hot sauce. Check it out. Get the whole set, whether it's copperhead, cottonmouth, cane break, coral snake. There's one for each native venomous of Louisiana.
I don't think Diamondbacks are native to Louisiana, are they?
Should probably know that.
I feel like we should know that.
That one. Don't want all of them, which you should. You just want one. We pick wholeheartedly the cottonmouth sauce.
Across the board.
That one was our favorite. And if you do his thing with public outreach, relocations. He was just relocating a baby copperhead. He takes in animals, gets them on the mend, and then finds awesome new homes for them, responsible homes at that. And he's just a good dude. a dude out.
Yeah, man.
Shameless plug. Now until July 9th. It is July 6th. If you use the code Fireworks, you get 10% off. Little deal. Uploaded a couple of new designs the other night. One I'm wearing currently, and then the Coleonics shirt, which I'm being told the Coleonics is enough. So whatever that means. Appreciate it. I'm gonna keep.
Yeah, man, doing awesome. A lot of people getting some really cool swag.
Like Daytona delivery type an order, and they just want to get it while they're at Daytona. I'll bring it down.
You could do one of those, do a discount code, or use the code, make that take off the shipping, and then that way if it's deliver it.
Yeah, with the way Shopify works, I'd have to figure out which there is a way to do it, but to make pickup like an option, then have it for that weekend or just before that weekend, and then go back to regular shipping or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out, but and they're going to be at Daytona, and instead of paying shipping, they'd like to just pick them up.
Yeah, I bet there'd be a good few. There's a lot of people that go to Daytona, so
load up on stickers, start handing some out.
There you go. That'll be good, man.
Which, if you need stickers, completely unrelated and not an affiliate or sponsor or whatever, but I was just overall impressed with the price and the quality. I used Vinyl Disorder for the first batch of these Fulvia stickers, and they run some really good sales. Is kind of the first place people think of when they want stickers. If you do some shopping around, there are the sticker mule, and the print quality is just as good. I was happy with Vinyl Disorder, didn't have any issues. Discount code. Their website is kind of archaic. It's old-ish in its sort of interface and layout. It's kind of odd. But they run specials pretty much constantly, and they're usually pretty good. You can get, I think, like 30% off 3-inch stickers or something like that. Of different die cut, squares, circles, whatever. So just shop around. Sticker Mule isn't the end all be all. Sticker Mule does have nice stuff, but stickers ain't cheap. Makestickers.com I think is another one that I've looked at. I have not used them yet, but their prices were also really good, and they looked pretty decent in terms of the print quality. So
nice.
Always shopping around. So
good stuff, man.
What's been going on?
Some good, some really bad, unfortunately. I mean, I guess I'd say good. Good's a relative term because it wasn't a bad thing, I guess. What we got? I guess first off, my Santa Rosa, which I'm kind of in. Actually, I'm happy to have more babies. That I'm not upset about. But my girl looked really, really good after her first clutch, and I was really happy about that. And I was, cool with just the one. And then I noticed she was gravid again, and I was like, shit.
Another clutch of 40.
Yeah, not nearly as many this round. But I was more concerned about her and her health coming out of it. I don't love double clutching. I certainly didn't try. By the time I thought it was kind of too late, I didn't really know that was a such a easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but luckily she came out of it fine. She wasn't egg bag.
How did the second clutch appearance wise look in comparison to the first? Did they look smaller and sort of like wimpier? Or was
not
the
the biggest difference was the clutch. I got 14 eggs, no slugs, all perfect. Every single one had veins, counted them all, looked amazing. Second clutch had 3, and I mean it was a clutch of 12 total, including the slugs.
Yeah.
So it was a clutch of 12, 3 slugs, and then 2 of the good looking eggs now didn't have veins that I could see. So they're incubating away through there anyways as well, just to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
If they get really nasty and start affecting the other eggs, I may pull them out. But I mean, as of right now, I'm just gonna let them all ride in there together. But the other, like I said, there's 9 that look good, but they all look fine.
Yeah.
They all look really good, pretty much just like the other ones. But yeah, other than that, really wasn't a difference, other than the slugs. Which, I'm not surprised by, being that she gave me 14. Turns out, I don't think that's.
It's pretty middle of the road to me.
It's a good size clutch. It's not small by any means, but it's not like, oh my God, So, like I said, I mean, to me, it seems pretty average, because my yellow rat, my Pasco County girl, gave me 16 eggs, which that seemed pushing a lot to me. But
some of those yellows get.
Yeah, but that's the thing. She's not a huge animal.
No.
She's a good size.
Yeah.
Like he's
no one's Rico.
No one's Rico. That's right. He's a dump. Gray girl. Because again, she's not a huge animal, but I was not complaining at all, especially how good she looked after it. But that was the thing with the double clutch. I'm not gonna say she looked like complete shit, but she definitely, like, you could tell now after the second one. I was like, okay, you look pretty bad. So I let her sit for almost a week, a little more, and then yesterday I gave her a small adult mouse.
Mm-hmm.
So
what did you give her after that first clutch?
After the first clutch, I gave her I get from Big Cheese, and the way they do sizes for like adult mice, it's small adult, jumbo. So I gave her an adult just because she looks so good, and the adults really aren't that big. I gave her an adult, and then right after the adult, I put her back onto jumbos, and I gave her a chick or something, because I alternate a lot. Chicks are going to be probably the main diet moving forward for most of my rats. But I gave her, again, the adult, gave her a jumbo, then I think I gave her a chick, another jumbo, and then she was about to lay her eggs that week. Or it's some type of progression like that. So I got her right, because that's all I feed my adults, is either a chick or a jumbo mouse, when they're of size. I don't think rat snakes need anything bigger than that, since they feed a little bit more frequently than stuff like carpets. So that's what I did, and apparently that was a lot. She wasn't with the male again. This was all just retained sperm.
Right. Well, that's why I think it was I've mentioned it at least the last, I think, 2 episodes or so, but Jason Hood's episode of Calibre and Cleveland Radio, he mentioned giving females, like, instead of, typically when something lays for me, instead of adult mouse or like a larger meal,
right,
I typically try to go for, because I have so many rat pups and smaller stuff, I typically just try to go for smaller stuff.
Yeah.
Get something in them to hold them over until I can sort of work them up to something bigger. I didn't do that with that ghost tester, a female that laid. adult mouse,
Right.
And she's double clutching.
Yeah.
And so it's really got me thinking, because you had that happen with yours. And I'm sure there is something to it. I just, for some reason, I never heard back when I was a kid in like one of the corn snake books or something, that feeding heavy after that first clutch. I'm curious,
And
because
that,
it makes complete sense. Like if all of a sudden they're like, oh wait, there's still food happening, there's a lot going on. Like I can crank out another one whether they want to or not. It's whatever. But
yeah, and that's basically what Jason Hood said, and and Loafman agreed because he had the same dogs. I think tricolors are a little different from what I'm gathering from listening to their podcast a lot recently. Tricolors are kind of very prolific as far as eggs go, but with a Western hog, and it ended up being detrimental to the animal,
Yeah.
But that's basically what is if you don't want to double clutch, because Jason was saying he had a corn snake that triple feeding it normally afterwards. And me, like, normally when a snake drops, I do give it a small meal like the first feeding, but if it looks like it can take something average sized after that, then I normally would. But again, I've only bred carpets up to this point.
I just with that ghost tester, like she laid that first clutch and she looked
right.
Second year that I bred her, and after that first clutch, she looked great. Like she didn't look deflated. She didn't look like absolute garbage. Like she looked fine. And so I was like, sort of going off of that as the basis for what I'm going to feed after that first clutch. I was like, okay, she looks good. I don't feel like I'm not too concerned about sort of sending her into freaking shock with all the stuff that's been going on physically for her, the last 4 weeks. So I went ahead and gave her something large. And I think that's very easy too, because when I had the Cyanea, she double clutched. Like, didn't matter what you did, you were getting a second clutch. Right. Like, it was happening.
And I think that
was natural.
Yeah, and I think it would be that way with tricolors as well. Just from what I'm gathering about them. So I think in scenarios like that, it's almost better to feed a little bit more frequently, maybe still smaller meals, obviously, but more frequently, because if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And you want her to have the resources to be able to do that kind of thing. Because that goes into understanding the species that you are working with. If it's inevitable, then you need to help them as much as possible. If it's possible for them not to and you don't want them to, right, then you need to take the proper steps in order to do that. In my case,
at the same time, if like, I don't think the female would double clutch if the biology, like the physiology, wasn't there to back it up, if that makes sense. They're going to ovulate again, and they're going to have follicles again. Clearly, I have enough to do this again. So right, maybe it's not that deal. If it's something you're like purposely pushing from the hell out of females, saying I need more clutches from a single breeding,
right,
that I think is pushing it. But if it's one of those things where, like, this corn who hasn't double clutched for me in the past is now double clutching, and it's like she's in good shape, I'm not really worried about it. For some reason, I have the suspicion that this second clutch is going to be kind of weak. Like it doesn't seem as gravid as she was the first round. Like it almost seems like a secondary type of deal where it's like I might get a couple.
It's the same like I could tell, like especially when she refused food. That's when I was like, okay, I think she's gravid, because I was looking at her. There's some. I think she might be holding some more, and but it wasn't nearly as prominent as the first one. The first one, she was like just huge, and I was like, oh my god. So it's never. I don't think your second clutch is ever going to be as good as the first one, at least in most cases. But again, that's just an observation from what I have seen. So now I'm low-key kind of worried that my Pasco County yellow's gonna double up again, because again, she looked fine after her clutch. So I'm like, man, I
That would
fed
be
her the same way,
a
you know.
really interesting sort of experiment to run is like if you had a group of 4 or 6 females that you were breeding, and you take half of those, and like as soon as they drop that first clutch, that first meal is something big, and then the other, you wait the same amount of time, but you give them something smaller,
Right.
and see if you get double clutches. I mean, especially if you can do it in the same species and you're keeping them basically the same.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting.
It'll kind of be interesting with the grays and yellows, because I fed the Pasco girl the exact same way I fed
Mhm.
the gray. So it'll be interesting to see if she drops, and maybe just, something with the gray. Again, I really don't know. But this time around, I do not want her to go for 3. So I gave her that small meal. And even the first when I fed her, it was by no means a big meal. It wasn't a regular meal for her. It was just appropriate for what I thought after a clutch. It wasn't like small, but it wasn't a normal meal. So this time I gave her something small, and I really didn't want to, but I thought I was thawing out mice, and she was at the top going. I was like, I can't not, like, it's just it hurts me to see snakes like looking for, obviously with the carpets. Yeah, obviously with carpets, I know, like, they get antsy. They don't need to eat. But she's a whole another 12 eggs. I was like, fuck, man. So if she got something really small here again in like 10-11 days, and again, give her something really small, because that was the consensus. Is a lot of the episode with Jason was, let him sit for 10 days, 2 weeks, don't give him anything, give him a small meal, let him sit again, small meal, then
work them back up
really slowly, gradually, bring them up. Again, because he said that, free clutches and like that, and he said she just looked like absolute ass afterwards. So it's really something I want to avoid. I love that snake and I love that pair so much, and I do not want to hurt her in any way. So if I can help it, I want to make sure she's good. Yeah. Birds, I think they can breed a little bit more consecutively than things, as far as like back-to-back years. So, I would like for her to go again next season. So one thing with colubrids that I think where a lot of people get in the time frame of is, okay, I need to get this weight back on the girl as soon as possible, so she'll be good to go down for brumation, be ready for next year. Shoot to, all right, get them back up to feeding size as possible. And if that may not be the best case scenario if you're looking to breed 2 years in a row. Since she double clutched, I don't know if I'll pair her again. I'm gonna get weight back on her and brumate her either way. I don't know if I'm gonna pair them up.
Yeah, I don't. When it comes to that, I kind of do it on like a case by case basis sort of deal, and I don't like to decide that until I'm closer to the actual time. Like when it comes to time to start pulling stuff out of brumation and bringing it back up, that's kind of when I want to. That's when I sort of determine to wait another year, or if I think she's okay to go. Like there was a Baird's female that I got a clutch from last year, just that single egg. That's het hypo. And she looked rough, and she seemed to really struggle to kind of get, like, maybe I just didn't beef her up enough afterwards. And so I didn't pair her this year. But she's looking really good now. So it's like, I think every 2 years, every other year, it's probably not a bad idea to give females a break, especially if they're on like the older side. If they're kind of in their prime, that 3 to 4 year range, 5 years, like, go for it. But I think as you get as they get older, I kind of take it
Yeah.
like slowly, sort of retire them, if that makes sense.
And that's kind of that's always my thought process with carpets. Doing carpets, I was gonna do a year on, year off. That was kind of my thought with it. And I still have carpets, and that's what I plan to do. Continue breeding those. But with colubrids, I'm probably gonna be more of a 2 years on than a year off type of schedule. I don't know. It's going to be all dependent. They're all going to get cooled. I'm going to cool them no matter what, whether they breed or not. I keep things separate, which that I'm kind of wonder if I shouldn't start cohabbing a few things. But again, I don't want them to breed
in
unless,
pairs.
kind of do pairs. I wouldn't do trios. But just start cohabbing in pairs, year round. I see more and more people doing it and more people having success. But the problem with that comes into breeding when you don't want them to, or when the female's obviously not, of
that's
size.
the paradox of it, though, because
right.
It's like, if the female's ready and her biology says when I was, this was like not long after we moved here, I had a pair of corns together that were, I think, under 2 years old, and went in there to do a water change or something one day, and that female was gravid, and she was small, like tiny. I was like, I was a kid, so I was like, I think I just killed this snake. I just had them together because it's the same thing. I was like, oh, they're not going to breed. They're too small. They're too young. There's no way I would have to worry about that. And I think she laid like a clutch of 3 or 4, and one of those eggs was good. And that egg I incubated, and it went the distance.
No way.
And that female was fine afterwards. Seemed to. Orland at ECW swears that younger females bounce back way better than older in terms of like people would probably skip a year of growth. Not saying that you should rush it or anything like that, but I said with chondros, when I had the chondros together, it's like the female's she's ready,
right.
Like the biology is going to dictate the given time frame. So
right.
I don't know. It's I have the rhinos cohabbed. She had her clutch. She bounced back perfectly.
Do you plan on keeping those
I'm
together?
Them, yeah.
From here on out.
Haven't seen any interest from. I do think that there is something to, like, maybe there's some sort of, hormonal or pheromonal type deal where once they lay, they're not receptive anymore, and the males kind of pick up on that. And if the female was putting out the vibe that she was ready to go, I think the male, they lay. I think that they have some sort of chemical signal that basically says, you cannot try that.
Yeah. Leave me the hell alone.
So yeah, I don't know, because that was my concern, was like, okay, she's going to lay this clutch, so does that mean the male is going to go right back to trying to get make it happen again? And so far he hasn't. Like, they've pretty much ignored each other's existence. He stays up in his corner and hangs out on his perches. She hangs out in that water bowl of the human hide, and that's kind of it. That wasn't the case when I first put him in there.
I think the difference with that is going to be, I'm more so worried about it in the fact of like the next year. If I don't think the female is, the term ready is a very broad term, like, yeah, she might be ready, but in my eyes, I'd be like, so with cohabbing year round, I would be more so worried about wanting to give that female the year off. And then
have you asked Montrose about it?
Yeah, I talked to him about
what his experience has been
what he does, what he's had to do is just because I think he told me it with his Seminoles this year.
yellows.
The Seminole County yellows. They bred so many years in a row, and he was like, I really want to give the females, we had to separate them. So I mean, and that's always an option, cohab until you really don't want to, then put the male in something temporary.
Once you hit that window, like say you cool them down, and normally you would cohab them, between July and November, fine, and then you brumate them, and then you just happen to do same-sex cohab when you pull them out.
I guess that's the thing when you pull them out.
Like I'll cohab females together when I hibernate. Put 2 females in the same tub for brumation to cool them down. I don't think I did it with any males. I think I just did it with some females because space was tight.
Yeah, for me, I brumated everything by itself because I rolled my whole V70 rack just into my garage and put my white in next season. And although I do think I'm going to do things a little differently next season, so I can put some standalone tubs in there. I think we're going to put an actual like rack in the garage so I can put tubs on there.
I would like to do that more than just kind of stacking them.
Yeah, because I don't like things on the ground personally in my garage. My garage gets a ridiculous amount of bugs and spider webs and roaches and
I haven't noticed anything the last 2 or 3 years that I've done that.
And obviously they're not as prolific in the winter.
The sheet with the sheet, but
they're obviously not as prolific in the winter. But it's
see a bunch of cobwebs and stuff.
No, I didn't have that issue. Granted, I didn't cool very long, and I think that's why I haven't had success with the Pituophis, at least with the Brewster County stuff. I really didn't cool as long as I wanted to. We had a really weird winter. This year I think I'm going to go a little earlier and try to cool for I'm going to shoot for late December. I'm going to cool for January and February.
Why not just do it December through February?
Because my garage will get hot, man.
What?
Like my garage will get hot on those hot days, man. Because that's why I'm saying like end of December, beginning of December, I don't trust it, man. Because we'll get that week-long period of 80 degrees. And
what's your room at on a daily basis?
78. Yeah, I know, but it doesn't help for what I'm saying is it doesn't help for the brumation aspect.
I think at this point
it probably doesn't matter.
I don't think
realistically.
They care. I think temperature things is like I look at it and like there's 3 parts that all play a hand in successful brumation. I think food or lack thereof. I think light cycle is a big one, and then temperature there. But
let me ask you.
There's so much leeway, I think, with temperatures because
obviously we get here. With that in mind, now I've never heard of anybody doing this. This is just me and my weird brain constantly thinking about shit. Say we put down beginning of December and you get a week or 2 weeks of 80 degrees. What would you think about giving them a very small meal? Because if you think in the wild and woods, they go down because it's cold. They're going to go hide away somewhere. On that 70, 80 degree day, they're probably going to come out and look for something, eat, probably go back under. I highly doubt they're staying down because I have found snakes in January.
Oh, I mean, we know December. For sure it's not like up north where it is a very consistent, like denned up from October to the end of March or whatever it might be up there. Like down here, like you can go out on a warm enough January day and still see racers and stuff moving around.
Right.
I mean, hell, there's even like weeks, the week of Christmas, sometimes we'll still see green and Knowles running around.
That's what I'm saying. Like the weekend, that's why I usually wait till after. I would like to wait till after Christmas because I know it's going to be cold in January. The highest it'll get in January is normally high 50s. Maybe low 60s on a warm day.
It's the combination. It's the photo period, which I think I've said it before. I think photo period plays a major role in brumation.
I agree.
Like,
I fully agree. That's why. So for my garage has a window, like it would be right here on yours. I put tinfoil over it to completely
like
black it out. Yeah, pretty much. But I knew that would do more than just putting, a thick blind on it, and I didn't want it to get covered in cobwebs and shit. So I taped up tinfoil over that sucker and it worked great. It was very dark in there. I still have it up. Actually, I never took it down. But that worked great for, to keep it completely dark in there. I never rodents for all the stuff in the main room. I used my flashlight and just set it on the edge of my thing. And
see, I'll still come in here when stuff's brumate and take the sheet off and like check on everybody, top off water bowls, whatever.
Yeah, I know. I still did waters.
I don't worry about that.
Yeah,
but
I did waters weekly, but I used a light. I used a flashlight or my phone, and that's how I did everything in there.
I definitely normally this light just stays on, like the ceiling light, but during the winter months when I am cooling stuff, like if they're in here and they're not in the closet, which even if they are in the closet, I keep the light off and I make sure Katie knows to keep the light off because sometimes we have a habit of leaving it on. But in here, if they're in here and in their closet, I turn it off, whenever possible. And I don't think it's not necessarily complete darkness that they're in, because obviously we still podcast and stuff in here when they're brumating, and they do get some light. I think they don't have to have complete darkness. Definitely much more limited. Having bred the bears without even cooling them, really, officially cooling them and just having them in the room, put them in the bottoms of the racks and let them naturally get to, upper 60s.
Right.
And then having the window there to where the days are naturally shorter, which naturally limits the photo period naturally is different because it is winter. I think that's enough. That was enough to trigger it because, I bred them successfully with no issue. I'm sure you could do that with corns.
And I really think it just depends on, where the animal naturally occurs. I think you don't have to do as long or as intense, and that's kind of why I prefer to wait, and just do a shorter period. This year, they were only down for a month and a half ish, and obviously the Santa Rosas were absolutely fine. They did great. The pines and the not so much, but I do wonder if those don't need to be a little bit more of a mature species.
I'm sure they do. It wouldn't surprise me.
So I'm thinking that maybe they just might need another. I know the at least the females, because I know the male he tried.
Yeah,
I know
it never seems to be the males.
Yeah,
the
it's
males
always
aren't the issue.
It's always known that the males can go a little younger.
I feel like you wouldn't even have to cool the males 90% of the time. Not. They'd still find a way for spermatogenesis and to be completely fertile and ready to go.
But yeah, and again, I always wonder that what happens on those warm days. Should on the random warm day in the winter, do you open up the window, let them have them a really small food item and kind of make it like that?
I wouldn't give them any food.
I don't want to, but if I know, my issue is if I know it's going to be warm for the next 2 weeks, but I've already put them down, what's that going to do? Is that going to negatively affect them in their system somehow? Rat snakes I wouldn't worry about as much, but I'm more worried about the Pituophis having a much higher metabolism.
See, I guess the other side of that is also the concern of if the weather's wacky enough to all of a sudden flip to 80 degrees, what happens if you feed them and then within the next 48 hours it drops back down to the 50s again, and now it's now I have to warm them up and keep them warm for an extra week or so until they're fully digested. 2 days they're good to go, whatever.
And that's what I mean. Granted, I probably wouldn't do it. I'm not going to do that, but it's just things that I think about for a more naturalistic thing.
I don't know. I say hold the line. Them, I'd keep mine down. I would, I'm not gonna adjust anything unless we're talking about abnormally hot,
right?
Then I would be a little more concerned. But so far, I have yet to see it's warm to us because it's winter, and obviously it's going to be warm to them because it's. But I do think even if we're talking like low to mid 70s, maybe over 75 every now and then, you know, that's still cooler than what they would typically be kept at.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing.
It's just, yeah.
I think if it's, you know, a couple days, it's not going to hurt. I guess I'm talking about like a week-long period in December that it can be, you know,
70 degrees on Christmas Day.
Exactly. But I guess the good thing about the garage is like it'll stay colder in the garage longer. You know, I don't think it got over like 65. But again, I was cooling in January. You know, there was a day I went in there on a cold day, and it was like 45 degrees in there. You know, I was temp gunning the snakes, and they were, you know, below 50, and I was like, I don't know if it's too cold. You know,
like just above freezing, like in the, you know, the 30s to maybe low 40s.
I don't know.
If it stays that way for several days, I get a little concerned, and then I might do something. But if it's only like a night or two, they're fine. Like they'll be okay. They're tough animals. If they were that fragile, they'd all be extinct.
No, I agree. And I went as far as buying a little, you know, oil filled heater, and if it got cold, put it right next to the rack and just kind of let it.
See, I don't. Yeah, and that was something up. I wanted to do, and something I do need to actually probably get. Maybe I can get them cheaper now because it's not cold.
You definitely.
But have one on hand. I wanted one for the rats and mice when it gets cold.
Yeah.
And then B, have maybe even another one here, to where if we do get that weird week of like where it's a like
freezing, right?
Just have something, you know, even if it's 4 or 5 feet away from the stack, just to keep the ambient temperature around the stack warmer than freezing.
Yeah.
You know, then I'd be okay. But
and again, that's exactly what I did.
It got a little hairy over winter.
Got cold
snaps.
So it got cold.
It's gonna suck, but
yeah,
we could all solve this issue by just having a cooler to keep things in. Problem solved.
Yeah. And that's what Montrose does. He's got a
steady 55, boy.
He's got a refrigerator that's rigged up on a thermostat that works really well. Now I would love to do the wine cooler thing, but the issue with the wine coolers is they're wide enough for a bottle of wine, which isn't that wide. So
well, you'd have to get like the one my dad had, which was like a restaurant grade.
Right.
Like that thing was taller than me. I mean, I'm 6'4". Like that thing was
no.
Big. You know, he'd put adult Alterna in, you know, 15 quart, maybe something in between that and a 6, whatever. And he'd keep them in there at 55, and he had the front covered with a piece of like construction sheet or something, plastic. He could still lift that up and check on things when he needed to.
Right.
But that is something, man, when he got rid of that, I didn't even think about it. He's like, "You need this?" And I was like, "No, I'm good."
What?
And then because I didn't even think about it, because I was like, I'm trying to think if we were even here yet, or if I was still with Doug.
I don't think you were here yet.
Because part of that was like, where the hell do I put it? The thing's massive. It's heavy.
Right. Transporting it would have been a bitch and a half.
But now, dude, I'm kicking myself so bad. That thing would have come in handy. Reason of like when it gets oddly warm in winter, don't have to worry about that when you have a giant fridge that's you can set to 55 and just let it go, you know.
Yeah, but that's the thing with the wine coolers, is finding one deep enough. You know, I would really only need it deep enough to be able, because like that's the thing, like rat snakes, they're a little bit more compact, but those big Pituophis, you know, the smallest I could brewmate them in is like a 32 quart.
That's what I brewmate the adult Bairds and corn.
I think with the big pines, you know, that's pushing it a little bit, you know, so I don't, you know, that's why I just rolled the whole rack out there. It just made it easier than tubbing them all. Keep them all at, you know, a solid 55. Right. And they'd get tubbed in 32, and you know, but your average wine cooler you can buy
No,
sideways. You know, obviously never long ways, but I'm talking like
or
sideways.
if they do
in
have
there.
one, it's one of like the freaking Lamborghini,
$1,000,
crazy expensive, and
yeah,
has a bunch of stuff you don't need.
I'm probably still gonna end up getting one for like hog noses,
Mm-hmm.
because you know adults you can fit them in 6
Right.
to
No.
15 quarts, and you know those will 6 quarts will fit in those, no problem.
Adult males, no problem.
Yeah, adult males, adult females. I wouldn't want to stick in a 6 quart just for the sake of them flipping over a water dish or something. But I don't know. Right now, the garage works. You know, if we were in South Florida, I think I would have more of an issue and need to look into something more artificial. But here, I think we get just enough of a cold snap for, you know, most of the stuff that. Also, why I don't keep stuff that needs to get cold, you know, for an extended period. Granted, I do have the fox snakes. I think, yeah, basically everything else I've got is more southeastern or at least southern, so it's not really as much of an issue.
Speaking of hog noses, there was a post on Instagram the other day that kind of made me roll my eyes. I guess it says, been checking on this girl to lay 2 times a day, and today I find 8 fertiles and mom with a belly full. The rest of the clutch she ate. This is the second time she's done this. No big deal. Just a couple grand of project animals gone. LOL. I'm was like, that's the first concern is now I'm, you know, thanks a lot. I'm out of a couple grand that I didn't even have to begin with. So are you really out that money if you didn't have it? I don't know.
I think you could say she ate a couple grand worth of babies, you know, type of thing.
Even then, it's like, you have any issues with your incubator, you didn't have any issues with the fertility
and
of
you
the
hit the
eggs, you
odds
didn't have any
that,
issues with the
know,
animals like hatching and, you know, make, I don't know, it just, to me, it was like,
I agree. I understand being
looking
a little
at it all wrong, but
I understand being a little bit like, you know, dude, what the fuck? Why did you do that? But you know,
like if the Jansen I
happens.
did that, where I finally got a decent clutch and I come to find she ate them all, like, yeah, I'd be pissed.
You'd be a little,
but I'd be more pissed just because of the fact that it's like I've been trying so damn hard to get eggs out of those things, and it's like this is how, like, this is the biggest middle finger you could possibly give me.
Yeah, instead
of like,
dude,
man, I could have sold those for $1,000 a piece, man.
Right.
Shit.
Yeah, that's, and that just like goes into the whole, you know, are you doing this for money or are you doing this because you love it? You know, and that's,
which I'm sure those people are. I'm not familiar with the people that posted it. I don't know them, but at first glance, I was just like, oh, that's your first concern. Like, okay.
It's kind of like the
instead of, man, I wonder if there's something wrong with my female. Maybe she's not getting enough calcium. Maybe she's not getting enough of X, Y, or Z. Like, I should probably look into that, and maybe the problem will stop. I don't know.
Yeah, instead of looking into why, you know, I would understand it more with a king snake. You know,
I would expect that,
like, you know.
But then there were some comments on it where people were saying like their females have done the same thing, and maybe it's just because hog noses are dumb as hell.
I think in that case, I would probably keep a camera on your snakes and notice as soon as she's done laying, go and yoink her out of the friggin' tub and get those eggs. You know,
they're gonna do what they want to do.
Yeah,
snakes are gonna snake.
Snake's gonna snake, baby. Yeah. Yeah, as far as a very shitty update that I really hate to say, I am beyond sad about it. That female,
what?
Yeah. So to say I'm upset is a bit of an understatement. It really shot me down, kind of ruined my 4th of July. She was 6.
Okay.
So
too young.
Yeah, there were some red flags after feeding. frankly, they're red flags as soon as I got her. But I was hoping for the best. After she fed, she gave me some really weird poops. So needless to say, she was taken to a vet and pooler to get.
Oh, did you take it down?
Yeah, I took it down there to get sent off to UGA for a necropsy and crypto testing and all that jazz.
What was the process for setting that up? Like,
it wasn't much.
Like if someone wanted to do that and they have a vet that's able, like, is it just a matter of like driving it down? Did you hit them up beforehand saying, hey, can you send this off to, like?
I called them because I didn't know if I needed to make an appointment or anything.
Did you freeze it? You didn't freeze it beforehand, or did you?
I did.
Okay.
Just for the night. I don't know if that will kill the crypto or not. I did ask Chris, and he said, it
probably
shouldn't.
Not, dude. That's
because if it's
bleach,
if it's in because I know but freezing temperatures do kill crypto, but I think it's more of a surface level kind of thing, like equipment, tubs, things like that. Freezing temperatures will kill crypto. Freezing, if I remember correctly, talking to Loafman, freezing temperatures, direct sunlight, the high percentage hydrogen peroxide, those are the main things. So she only froze overnight. I triple bagged her and put her in the freezer, brought her in a cooler to my vet. But I did call them prior to, just the day of, to see if I needed to make an appointment. And it really was just, bring her in and we'll send her off to UGA. They said they could do a broad necropsy, and they could test for crypto, but if I wanted a much more accurate crypto test, that they could send it to UGA. So that's what I went with.
That's
it was
the avian and exotics vet.
Yes.
Pooler. Yeah.
Yes.
See, I've heard nothing but great things about that. I've never had anybody tell me that, the handful of people that I know that have gone there, had anybody tell me they had a bad experience.
They are my new vet. I was not super pleased with our local one last time I went. Lots of unanswered stuff. And I'm not knocking any vets that would do this, but I get it. That needs to be a thing sometimes, but because that's the thing with the pooler one. They are an exotic vet.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They're avian and exotic. Yes. The one here just took in yes. So I'm not talking bad about them or anything. It's just I got a lot more good vibes from the pooler people. So they're going to be my new vet. Granted, I kind of meant to ask because stuff I keep's illegal in Georgia. I don't know if that makes a difference. So yeah, she's getting sent off to UGA for a proper necropsy and testing. And
did they say how long that was going to take?
No, they said they would call me when they got results. I'm hoping that she shipped out same day.
I mean, I'm sure they would.
Yeah, because they said bring her in.
Gonna want to sit on it.
Yeah, they said bring her in before 5 o'clock if I want her shipped out same day. Time their shipment would go out. So I don't really know. I'm kind of leaving it, waiting until I get a phone call.
I mean, just the fact that they said, we can do this, but if you want something much more sort of hardcore, send it. We'll send it to these people. Like, that says a lot. They could just as easily have been like, yeah, we'll do one. Sure.
Charge me the same amount and
whatever.
Yeah, and if that was the other thing, it was not cheap. I don't retrospect, it was $300 to get it. Lady didn't know if there would be additional charges. Luckily,
I mean, if it was by weight, that explains it because that's huge.
Luckily, I have a care credit card, which anybody who has a lot, I would suggest look into that. Care credit is for specifically medical and vet bills. So I got one specifically for vet bills for if I didn't have the funds, and it's just the money prior to this happening. So I didn't have the funds.
Is the interest rate ridiculous though?
No, it's not.
It's
It's
only
not bad.
30%.
No, it's not. It's nowhere near that. But
I'll have
I
to look into
pay.
that.
I pay. Used it for I've had it for years now. I haven't had any amount of money on it for years because
use it.
I haven't had to
Right.
use it until now. But again, luckily, it was one of those things like, okay, I'm glad this is on hand. So definitely look into that if you don't have a ton of funds always laying around like me.
I've never heard of that. I didn't even know you had that.
Yeah, care credit, baby.
I'm not one to suggest people get credit cards.
I do not suggest credit cards.
I think credit cards people, it is such a bad decision because I made that decision when I was young, saying I'll get one.
I'm still paying for it,
and I'll pay it off. 10 years later,
paid
the card off,
ran
it back up again, paying it off again currently.
Yeah, that's me.
If
right
you're
now.
not good with money, credit cards are you can do. Pray you avoid. If it's something like that,
it's specific
for vets and stuff.
You can't
like
use
that.
it.
I'm not as opposed to.
You can't use it for anything else. You can use it for medical bills and you can use it for vet bills. And even with that, though, before you apply for one or get one, I would check with your local vet and make sure they accept it, because not all vets accept it. And not all places accept it. So check with your local places first before you apply.
Do they have like a directory on their website at all or anything that tells you?
I just called them.
Like in network?
Nah, not that I saw, because I'm pretty sure it just said check with your local whatever. Okay. So whenever because I know the place here took it, and then the place in Pooler, when I called them, I made sure to ask, I was like, y'all accept care credit? She's like, yeah, no problem at all. So there was no problems on that.
What it was. They're like, oh, a credit card? Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, no. So that helped me out a lot with that. So in the meantime, the male's doing fine. He eats great. He's gonna get tested anyways, just for sake of it. Luckily he's in quarantine.
This is why we quarantine.
Huh?
This is why we quarantine.
This is exactly why we quarantine. So we'll see. It's very, very disappointing. I was over the moon about that project. Look out. Granted, I do have Florida pines, but these were county specific, in Florida, southern pines. So it was heartbreaking to say the least. So I don't really know where to go from here. Probably get a lone male to somebody who just wants a really cool pit. There's a lot of people out there who just want a cool pit, but can't.
It would be cool to see Floridas or Southerns or whatever they are, be just as beloved as the other stuff. Like, they're not as flashy and they're definitely not as pretty, but
I love them, man. There was nothing.
Mine are awesome.
There was nothing that wasn't stunning about that girl.
Yeah,
she was just, and it's not one of those things like, oh, I lost money. It's one of those like a absolutely beautiful specimen of it.
I saw it with my own eyes.
Is no longer on this planet, and it's just
definitely doesn't help though.
The money does not help, no, but that's not salt in the wound. Overall, I felt so honored to.
It's my child. Hello. What is it? To Jake.
I'm okay. I got nicotine in my mouth.
Oh.
Yeah. There you go.
I think one is tiramisu.
Oh.
You don't know.
Hi.
Russian roulette.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try this bad boy right now with a cigar, boy. But let's give this out. Oh yeah, that's good.
Hi, have a good night.
See you later, Mop. In the mic. I apologize.
Now
Archie's hanging out with us.
Yeah. Hi, Archie.
Yeah, it's a bummer, man.
But yeah, so it wasn't necessarily like again, the money aspect, because they they weren't cheapskates by any stretch of the imagination, but it was just the fact that, I felt so honored and just appreciative to be able to have that animal. And I was so excited.
Ripped away from you.
It was. So it is what it is. Unfortunately, it's a part of the hobby, and it's probably the worst part of this hobby, losing
Everyone's going to
animals.
deal with it at one point or another.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Thing. So yeah, I'm kind of in limbo right now of what to do. Gonna try and I'm gonna test the male, make sure he's good, and keep him for a little while longer to locality male that doesn't really
I don't understand
to breed.
why Southerns are really all like expensive, considering that there's so few people that are really interested. Like, there's not.
I mean, that's
I don't
why.
think there's a ton of interest in them. Really in the loop as far as what's happening in the pit world, but Southerns have never seemed to be super popular. And
I don't
so
think
I
you're.
don't know why people.
I don't think you're generic, just a Southern pine snake. But again, it's one of those things like they're a little northern. They're really not, unless it's locality specific, because you don't see that. You really don't see many locality specific Southerns available. So it's one of those, they are a little bit pricier, but your generic normal Southerns from a morph breeding, those are probably going to be about the same. So nothing crazy. But again, pine snakes are just expensive, period. Jan and I are on the lower end of the spectrum on that, and which
is surprising,
blows my mind. But I think generically they're just as expensive as northerns. But when you get into the county locality specific, a little up there. But again, that's not why I'm upset. I'm just it just sucks. So yeah, it is what it is. And this also goes to show of just there's something to be said for buying babies. I don't like buying adults, and this just kind of set that in stone for me. After this, I'm probably never going to get an adult pair of snakes unless it's from somebody that again, not that this person was not trustworthy. I didn't know them personally. They had a very good reputation, and I'm not talking bad about them whatsoever. This is more so just like it's just an acclimation thing, because that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. Is she didn't do well in shipping. She didn't do well once I fed her. She didn't acclimate well because she was an older animal, and I think that's kind of why she crashed. So it's just, there's something to be said for buying babies. I'm not saying don't get a cool pair of adults if you know that there's always that. I have had no problems acclimating babies, from any adults. I have had my fair share of not doing well. So something to be said for that. Again, not knocking your adults if you have adults for sale, and I think with colubrids and Pituophis specifically, I think adults are harder because Pituophis don't ship well, period. Babies are adults, they get very stressed out, just like anything does, but I think pits crash a little easier. So
change as well.
Yeah, just keep that in mind.
Like me.
Yeah. So yeah, big bummer. But we move on. Get on with our
take it in stride.
Yeah, take it in stride. You just gotta take the hit to the chest and keep on rolling. The old out. It's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit.
And how horrible your 10 sequels are.
Yes.
In a series.
Yeah. But yeah, that's really all that's been going on with me the last. The pit thing literally just happened. I found her dead on the 4th.
Happy birthday, America.
Yeah, right. One of your most majestic animals in the country is no longer here. So But yeah,
Sucks.
like I said, the male's fine. He's
I'm
crushing.
good.
He's crushing mice, man. Like I gave him 2 extra large adults the other day. That dude is full of piss and freaking vinegar, dude. He is a firecracker.
Maybe that anger
it
is what
fuels
deters.
them.
Yeah, deters the health
Yeah.
issues. It's like those people that are like 98 and they've been smoking like 2 packs a day since they were 10. And like that's what's keeping them going, because the moment you tell them to stop smoking and they do, like their body goes into shock. And that's what kills them is the withdrawals.
Yeah. He has nothing but hatred. He's a really cool animal. There's still part of me that's like, maybe I'll just keep him. But again, like I'm at a point where I have too much stuff to just have things just because.
You can't just have stuff to enjoy it. What the fuck?
I'm not saying you can't. And I do enjoy him, but it's like I have a lot of other pits to enjoy. So I'll put it this way. If he doesn't sell, I'm not going to be mad. I will gladly hang on to him. But if somebody else can take him and really enjoy him, then I would gladly move him along just, for the sake of space and stuff, So it be what it be, man. Gotta keep her moving. Still got all my rat snakes that keep me more than happy. So I was talking to.
That's all that matters.
I was talking to Chris today. So I was speaking of that. I have a question for you. If you had kind of 2 ends of the spectrum, as far as colubrids, pick 2 species that you could keep. If somebody came to you and was like, you cannot have any snakes other than 2 species, what would they be?
Of colubrids?
I'll say of anything, but yeah, we'll say colubrids specifically.
Rhinos.
And you can have 2.
More rhinos.
Just rhinos. You can have 2 and you're still just going to pick rhinos?
No, it'd be rhinos and corns, I think.
Rhinos and corns. Yeah.
Well,
Aha. I would think it would be rhinos and corns for you.
Rhinos, definitely. It's the second pick that is tough, because corns, I love corns because of the simplicity.
Yeah.
All the cool combinations and things you can play with, like the options. But then the Jansenii.
Yeah, there's the Jansenii.
Oh, the Jansenii. That's a tough one. I'd probably end up having to flip a coin. Like if I could have more Jansenii.
Yeah.
And like space wasn't an object. Probably Jansenii, and
Really?
maybe just Trugon, like Oxycephalum and Jansenii.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do want to get some oxys. Like I feel like you got to kind of have both. It's almost like a green tree emerald thing. Like you can't just have green trees.
I mean, you had
and not have
trees.
Emeralds. I want emeralds eventually,
Yeah.
like 1 or 2, nothing crazy.
Right. Yeah, I was talking to Chris today, and I told him if I could have just 2 species of snake, it would be Janai, North Mexican pines, and yellow rats. If I could combine just the obsolete stuff, I would, because I love all. Technically, they're all the same now.
I mean,
So
depending on who you ask.
Yeah, if you ask me, they're not the same. But yeah, if you ask taxonomy, then they are.
If you ask science,
yeah. So for me, it would be obsolete and Janai, hands down. But if I had to get particular, it'd be yellow rats and Janai. Because, dude, listening to Chris's episode of Kluber and Klubroid, man, I
I still have to finish it.
I fucking love Janai,
It's just
man.
Too much Pituophis talk.
I love,
falling
dude.
asleep behind the wheel.
Shut up.
Like, oh,
it's not just Pituophis
Jesus.
talk. It's
I know.
Janai talk. Janai are they are the bees freaking needs, man.
The beads needs.
Bees needs, whatever the fuck. I love them so much. They're such just perfect little snakes.
Ooh, so I have to get your opinion on this, okay?
Oh.
I have been given the green light on a squam, or I won't say or because I haven't even put it on the table as an option, but I was like, if not a squam, then like 2 pygmies, but they come at a cost. And that cost is either a baby or a boat.
Oh God.
What do you freaking choose? Honestly, I'm much more leaning towards the baby. Because there's nothing about a boat that I want anything to do with. And it's not that I don't enjoy the water. I do. But I know the one person who's going to have to be driving the damn thing while someone else sits on the bow and sips on seltzers. And the one person who's going to be bringing it home, flushing the engine, scrubbing it down, washing it down, taking care of it, making sure it's run in the winter.
Well,
all that stuff is going to rely solely on me. So I feel like even if those are my 2 options, I need to be going for more. Like what I'm getting out of the deal needs to be upped considerably.
This is my my take. If I wanted said squams or pygmies, and it was one or the other, I just wouldn't get squam or pygmies. That's me. Now,
what would you get?
If you're asking me, I mean, I'm saying like I would choose none of the above. I'd be like, okay, I just won't get squams or pigs.
Just call it a draw.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Then we're not doing
negotiation table altogether.
Yeah, we're not doing any of this. Now, if you're asking me if I would take a boat or a baby, I would probably take a boat. But the thing with that is there's a whole lot more that goes into boats than people. You can't just, if you don't know how to operate a boat, you can't just jump in a boat and run. You will destroy that thing. You have to learn how to trailer it. You got to learn how to drive it. You know, it's not like driving a car. The water works in a lot of weird ways. You got to learn how to dock it. You got to learn how to trailer it. You got to learn how to run a trailer. You got a vehicle to be able to pull a trailer. Depending on the boat, y'all's SUV, I mean, your SUV could pull a trailer more than likely, but a small boat couldn't have a big boat.
It wouldn't be a big boat, I promise you that. At first, I was like, what are we talking about? Like, if I get you a kayak, does that count? Keller mentioned a John boat. Neither of those are good enough. She's like, you know what I'm talking about. And she means like a little, 15-foot like bay boat or something.
Yeah, a little 15-footer wouldn't be bad. But you'd want to go get a captain's license. Not necessarily a captain's license, but you'd want to get some type of certification. Yeah. You have to get some type of certification there. There's like a boater certification course you'd have to get. But
then it's another like property tax. Like South Carolina, you pay every year. You pay property tax on your vehicles,
right?
And boats would be included in that. And so I'm like, I don't want to have to do that. And then it's just the overall thing of like, there's no such thing as like a quick ride in the boat.
No,
it's a whole process.
No, it's a whole process.
Load it up. You got to take it down to the ramp. You got to put it in. You got to park your car, go back to the boat, get on the boat, go on your ride, come back, load it back up on the trailer, get home. Like I said, flush the engine, wash it because it's salt water.
Yeah, you got to wash it.
If it were like a freshwater thing, like up in Columbia, with the lakes and stuff, like, sure, I wouldn't have an issue then. But that salt water, man, just wreaks havoc on engines and stuff. And I just honestly, I guess it's that bad to where it's like I would rather have a baby.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to say because you know what boat stands for? Bust out another 1,000. That's what boat stands for. Boats are money pits. Babies,
the other thing.
Babies are also money pits,
but they're more of an investment.
In what?
Free labor at a certain point. It pays for itself.
No, it absolutely does not. But
I've never talked to anyone that owned a boat and didn't hate it or regret it.
No, I know my buddy that I fish with pretty regularly. This is why I have friends with boats.
that's also what
I
what I'm
love-
told is like the
I
best boat
love-
is someone else's.
Yeah, I love being on the boat. I love being on a boat. I love being on the water. I love fishing to death. There's a reason I don't have a boat. I grew up on boats. My dad used to have a couple boats. Just wasn't. I love being on them, but my girlfriend's the same way. She wants a boat real bad, but I'm like, I got friends with boats.
Well, part of me just
Yeah,
like I'm like you
not-
don't. I don't
But
think
my
sh-
buddy loves his boat. He loves fishing. He's
if you're
passionate
out
about
in
it.
it
He's
all the
out.
time
Yeah,
and like that's
goes
what
all
you
the time.
do and you're like a charter guy, like that I get. If it's part of your living and your income, like
right.
absolutely.
It doesn't even have to be part of your income. Some people just really
But
absolutely love it, you know. But it is expensive.
Have the very sneaking suspicion that she is completely unaware of how much work is involved in those damn things
My
and
buddy,
how little you're actually going to use it after that first like 3 months,
after the initial love,
the
it
honeymoon
is-
phase. Once that's over,
Yeah.
and then you just see it and you just get
Yeah.
angry every time you look at it.
That's how it was with my dad. You know, he got his second boat.
This is
and
great until it's
we were
not.
in it. We were out there as much as we could. Then it sat a long time, and you know, it was one of those things. Granted, my buddy's a huge fisherman, and that's just his fishing is our snakes. You know,
Which that makes sense.
yeah, and he loves it. But he's got a small boat. He's got a little Mako. It's like 16 foot, and it's great for what he does. So you know, it's one of those things. Boats are great. Boats are fun, but boats are expensive. My buddy just had to put a new motor on his boat. 10 grand.
I cry for him.
Yeah, it was not cheap. But again, that's what he does. What the hell are you doing? A little stabber?
Yeah, I'm getting down to
You're
the
bougie over
getting
here.
a little hot.
Getting a little bougie over here. You know, so
I'm thinking maybe I should go for like a Squam and like an Insularis or something. Nothing crazy. So I don't like. That's the thing. is,
this
like,
would be my if you're sold on doing one, I'd be like, okay, I'll give you a child or a boat, but it's not just one Squam. It's whatever Squam I want when I want it.
black Squam.
It's all the Squams, you know,
Really, I'd
or
prefer
it's
a tiger over a black.
it's one of those things. It's not going to be okay. I can have one. It's going to be I can get these whenever I so choose. Obviously, within measures.
I
being
don't.
safe,
So
and
if I do,
I don't think you want a whole room of Squams.
if I do
but-
get back into venomous, I'm not breeding. I'm not
Yeah.
selling. I'm not dealing with any of that.
Yeah,
I don't know how guys do it. Like, just imagining and seeing the morons online that have venomous, and then seeing the ones that act like complete idiots
yeah,
and do stuff they're not supposed to, and then you being the guy that provided them that animal to give them the
Right.
opportunity to do that shit. Like, I mean, yeah, you're not going to know what's going to happen behind closed doors. Like, people can be very good
at the end of the day,
presenting
it's not
themselves
your
as something they're not.
fault.
But I just
Yeah.
breeding, like, especially if you're dealing with like smaller stuff like that, like pygmies
Right.
and Insularis and Squams, like tiny babies that are going to be a pain to feed and get started. And my fingers are huge; they're small. Like,
You'll fat finger that.
but I
little
don't
guy.
I don't want any elapids. I have zero desire to keep
Yeah, no.
any mambas or cobras or anything like that. Death adders would be kind of the only exception to that. But
Oh God, I love death adders, dude.
still,
Fuck.
even those, I'm like, they're cool, but I don't have too much interest in keeping them. So if I get something, like I said, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Like I said, I'd be happy with like 1 or 2 pygmies. Like, I'd be good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Nothing too wild. I don't want a massive diamondback. I don't want a canebrake. I don't like. If I could have those things, I totally would. But in terms of like, if I'm this limited, like, I'm gonna
Right.
keep it. I just something to scratch the itch.
I would say pitch. I get a Squam and 2 pygmies, and I'll give you a boat.
even
or a
like
child.
an eyelash would be
Yeah.
on there.
Do all
you know?
4. Get an eyelash, get a Squam, 2 pygmies. That's the deal. That's the if you are going to do one of those 2, I would not settle for 1 Squam or 2 pygmies. I would settle for.
I mean, does that
I'm gonna
also make
get-
me an idiot for being like, that's a fair trade?
Yes.
Okay.
'Cause
Because part of
like
me's
I
like,
said-
nah, man, it's good, like perfect. That's all you want.
Hey,
That's all you need. It's a fair trade if you're happy.
That kid's a lifelong commitment. See, and that's why I said if it's one or the other, I'd take the boat. Because if it gets tired, you can sell a boat. You ain't selling no kid. So,
but the boat, like then there's like the whole title thing.
oh come on, that's just
there's just all
no,
that.
that's
There's
easy.
all the other crap
it's
that you
the
just got to deal with.
It's the uptake and the responsibility of
Title
having
transfers and
that
vehicle identification numbers.
Oh my
and
god,
just,
that's all.
like that's how much I don't want to boat.
Paperwork.
Is that I'm seriously
It's silly.
considering having another child to
child.
avoid not getting a damn boat.
Well, let me ask
That's
you.
how much I don't want
Let me
one.
ask you this, Smitty. Do you want another kid? Like, is that something future?
I don't not
Is
want
that
another
something
one.
future Smitty would want?
Like if it was one of those things where it wasn't planned and it just like happened, I wouldn't be upset.
Right.
Like obviously I'd be like, okay, cool. Like
Have a
I'm on the fence about it.
Little mini Smitty running around.
Well, I'd see oddly that's part of the problem too for me is like my sister has girls.
Right.
And I know like my dad would absolutely kill for a grandson. And so I feel like this weird
Obligation.
weight to like I have that and like knowing that the family line would die with me. It's really weird. I can't explain it, but I feel this like weird thing where it's like for generations and generations, like this is where it's gonna stop. I mean, granted, my sister, like, you know, the genetics are all still there. It's such a stupid thing to even have play any sort of factor in this decision. But for me, I'm like, I can't just let it like the Smith name can't just die with me.
I get it. You know, like I have.
But then we do it, and we're gonna have another girl,
right.
And I'm gonna be like, well, not that I would be upset, but I'd just be like,
damn it. No, and like I kind of had this conversation with my dad the other day. Granted, like there are Bratzes in Wisconsin that have little boys being raised up, but you know, I told my dad the other day, I was like, you know, I really don't know if I ever really want kids. You know, I'm kind of okay. Like, you know, I used to like be like, yeah, you know, one day I really want a kid. Now I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. And my dad was like, oh man, you gotta have a legacy, man. You know, something. I'm like, what?
I don't. Yeah, and I mean, I understand that,
legacy?
but I also don't think a child is necessarily like the answer to that. Because, like, I'm sure that's not exactly what Jeffrey Dahmer or Charles Manson's parents were thinking when they had them. You know, but like, I'm gonna leave my legacy behind. It's like shit.
Some legacy. I don't know, man. All in all, you just gotta ask yourself, you know, and at the end of the day, if you know that one day you wouldn't mind having a kid, then yeah, you know, I would say
it's just
and that's what I'm saying. Like you gotta.
Well, you have other things to consider too, like when the other one's 10 currently, so you think like
it's a big difference.
There's a pretty big gap there.
A big gap.
Our age, not that we're old, like we're both 32. Trying to like do the math on that.
Damn, you 32?
Yeah.
Damn. You old.
There's just small stuff to consider. I think the only reason it didn't happen previously is just because I felt like we weren't in a good financial place to do it. Not that we couldn't have. It just would have been more stress than I think we needed.
Now you have Fulvius Apparel.
That's right.
Just paying all the bills, man.
So
I don't know.
But then I also have this weird idea that like the world, as soon as we're gonna have a baby, like the world's gonna go to shit and we're all gonna be living like it's the freaking Walking Dead, and we're gonna have a baby and we're gonna be running from zombies and like Russians and stuff. And
I would more so look at it from a financial standpoint.
You mean to tell me that's not realistic?
No, I mean it very well could be, but in the short term, I would look at the fact of like, is Katie gonna be able to work? How long does she need to take off work?
That's not an issue.
Daycare costs, if that's
not an issue currently.
Well, then, man, have a kid. Get you some squams, boy. Come on now. Baby kid, baby squams.
Oh, I don't want baby squams. Fuck.
Subadult squamps.
Have you seen how tiny those things are?
Yeah,
when
I
they're
want
born?
nothing to do with them.
Oh my god.
That's what I was going to say. When it comes to venomous, I have come to a point in my life that I really want venomous. I do. I'm going to wait to have venomous till I probably have an outbuilding, or I don't have a roommate, or whatever. I will know when I know. But I want one of every species in South Carolina minus corals.
Boo.
Yeah, I'm not dealing with that. So I want a pygmy, I want a copperhead, I want a cottonmouth, I want a canebrake, I want an eastern diamondback. That'll suit me. That's what I want for venomous, because I would like to, one day I would like to showcase some of my stuff, and it would be cool to be like, yeah, this is all of our native venomous right here in this one stack and no more. It's, that's what I want. And that will happen one day. I swear to God, I was at a hunt club a couple weeks ago, and we found still had his green tail, one of the prettiest cottonmouths I have ever seen.
Dude, they're gorgeous as
boy,
babies.
I was that close.
Some adults are gorgeous too, but most are just like
I was so freaking close to
swamp lions.
putting that thing in a freaking bag and bringing it home. I was like, no, I know better. My girlfriend will kill me. My roommate's going to be uncomfortable.
So yeah, I mean, that's like, I don't know if a squam would happen or not, even if it was an option, just because
Pygmies.
Like I'd lean more towards pygmies, I think, just from the
venom standpoint. Yeah.
And the like I still have my bite protocol from when I had the Atrox and stuff, which would apply to the pygmies as well. But I've also been very vocal about squams and people keeping them, mostly new people getting them in. That is not easily treatable just because of anti-venom availability. Though I did find out recently that apparently South African polyvalent anti-venom seems to work very well in comparison to other stuff that they've used in the past. In terms of like from the medical side of things and the emergency side of things, I think pigs would probably be the safer bet.
Yeah, but I mean, from the bite standpoint, it's one of those things that, like, yeah, there used to be that old term. It's not about when, it's about if. We're at a point now that it's very, you can keep venomous and not get bit. One of those things, like, I don't like the saying, it's not when, it's if. I don't agree with that. But accidents happen. They can happen very easily and need to be prepared for. So just in case. Always to be ready, and that's why I don't want anything not North American. If and when I ever get into a few venomous species, everything would be a North American pit viper, just because of ease of getting to a hospital.
Treatability.
Yeah, because it sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah,
you've been down that road.
Yeah, been down that road. Been there, done that. Even with North American stuff, it is. It's not a fun thing. I do not. A North American rattlesnake, and it was treatable. I ended up being fine. No serious long-term effects, and it was fine. But something not North American can be a very different story. So it's one of those things. There's a lot of factors. I've been listening to Phil and Nipper on Venom Exchange Radio a lot recently, and it's something that if you're even thinking about getting into venomous, you need to listen to them. Obviously I know you do, Justin, but I'm talking to the general public here. If you're even considering venomous, you need to listen to their podcast, talk with them, and really think about it and consider it.
Good resources for information on keeping venomous in particular are becoming few and far between.
Yes, good resources. There's a lot of people doing a lot of dumb shit with venomous. And those aren't the people you need to be looking at. You know, Phil, I respect Phil more than I respect probably
Nipper.
98% of people. You know, Nipper as well. You know, Nipper and Phil, they are the best of the best. You know, Phil talks about all his protocols and, you know, how I was listening to their most recent episode they just dropped yesterday or today.
Yesterday, yeah.
And, you know, just going through all his protocols for moving and all that. And it was just, it's impressive. You know, you see too many people so lackadaisical with it, and it
makes your butthole tighten up.
Yeah, a lot, you know, especially like if you've gone down that road, it changes everything.
Well, I think that, I mean, that's the issue. Like,
you know, like
it's not a big deal, but if you've been on the other side of that and you've seen when it is a big deal, all of a sudden you're much more cautious because you can be told about it until you're blue in the face.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's until you have it actually happen to you that then it kind of clicks and you're like, oh, this is why I should not be handling these without any hooks. Like,
you don't know
not
how
that that's what Jake was doing, but
it's not. But you don't know how bad it is until it happens, man. You know, I mean, talk to Nipper. He talked about it on one of his podcasts. He was bit by a pygmy, and it was bad. It was bad. It was not a fun experience for him, you know, and it's not. The other aspect to it is it's not just the venomous bite, you know, that alone is gonna fucking suck. That's gonna really, really suck. But you don't know how you're gonna react to that venom. You don't know how you're gonna react to any venom, you know, how your body's gonna react. There's people, I can get stung by bees and be fine. Other people will get stung by a bee and be dead in 10 minutes. It's no different with a venomous snake. And a lot of times you don't know you're allergic to that stuff till it's too late. And that's
you're gasping for air.
What?
I said until you're gasping for air.
Exactly. You know, it's a real thing. People can go into anaphylactic shock from a bite, from any venom, you know, any of that stuff. You know, I consider myself very lucky in my scenario. Yes, it was bad and it really changed how I did a lot of things. But it put a whole new perspective on this. But some people may not be as lucky, you know. So you're playing with. Do it respectfully. You have to respect these things. You know, it's not something just like, oh, I'm gonna get a venomous. You know, like I saw it was at a Repticon show years and years ago. There's a guy talking to another guy about cottonmouths. This dude had like overheard him talk. Cool.
$50, my guy.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing, you know, it's not so black and white, man. It's not just there's so much that goes into it, you know, and this is from a guy that doesn't keep venomous. You know, it's not something to be taken lightly, you know. And you know, watching you, Justin, when you had the Atrox back in the day, it was cool watching you and just how you really treated that thing with so much respect, you know. It's
because I was keeping that in the, you know, and granted, like when I talk about venomous, I don't mean to come like say it in a tone or come off as if like my time with native venomous overall is like anything comparable to elapids, or like I've never kept any mambas, never kept any cobras, you know. That's completely, that would be completely new territory for me. Aside of just understanding sort of the mannerisms of those animals, having been around them, you know, not a decent amount, but enough with Cody and Pia and stuff to kind of get an idea of what to. And watching, you know, their interns do their thing with those too, you know, seeing the difference between a very calm, you know, 12-foot black mamba and a very not calm, you know, 3-foot mamba. Those are two very different animals.
Yeah.
You know, when I talk about venomous and stuff, like in terms of what I've kept, you know, that scope is much narrower in comparison to the non-venomous stuff. So, you know, take it for what you will, but I think overall the principles are fairly the same. I tell Katie and I tell my parents when we were talking about it, like getting bit is not hard. Like
No.
it's not hard to not do, or getting not bit is not hard to do.
Getting bit is also not hard to do.
It's not,
You
but
know,
at the
it's
same
like
time,
both aspects. But yeah, that's the thing. If you're hands off,
if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing
Yeah.
and you're paying attention to what you're supposed to be doing, I mean, we're barring like extreme cases where like there are true accidents.
yeah,
And I hate saying accidents because a lot of times accidents can be prevented, but you do hear about some bites, that probably were completely preventable in terms of in captivity, but you do like stuff happens. And I mean, you do your best to make sure that stuff doesn't happen, and you plan for it accordingly, and you think of all the possibilities of what could happen and do your best to sort of mitigate that. But I think it's not difficult to avoid getting bit.
no, it's not.
Like,
But
I don't understand why people act like it's, the argument from Katie and family and stuff is like, you don't have control over what that's, when that snake decides to do what it wants to do. And it's like, sure.
But I have control over what
but
I do.
I also have understanding of knowing how that animal, even if it's a particular animal, knowing what they're likely going to do.
Right.
Like what Phil talks about of, plan for A, B, and C and expect D through F.
Right.
Like anything could happen. That Atrox that I had for a while, like I learned very quickly that thing's going to do laps around that cage before it finally stops and squares up.
Right.
So then, it only took one time for me to really learn to expect that. And it was the second time that really confirmed it. It was like, okay, that is exactly what's going to happen anytime I come in to clean this animal and do water changes and stuff. Like now, I know I can expect with fair certainty that is what this animal is going to do. Is it entirely possible that that's not what it's going to do and it's just going to go springing straight out the cage? Absolutely. Like I'm expecting that too. Like that's why there's hooks. That's why there's multiple hooks.
Right.
That's
why there's long.
I got a hook on like each wall. I got an extra hook behind me. The one in my hand. Like you're not gonna think of every possible scenario that could possibly happen. Because I mean,
but you have to be ready for anything.
But you have to provide yourself with the opportunities to be able to handle a situation if it doesn't go the way you're expecting it to. And so in that regard, when, they're like, you can't control what the snake is going to do. And it's like, yeah, I can't read its mind.
Yeah.
But it's like, if I know that this copperhead isn't going to ride a hook for shit, I can plan for that.
Right.
Like have a bucket ready because I know it's going to just flop off this thing like a wet noodle.
Have boots on.
Have like, that's, to me, that's like given. It's like, don't wear sandals while you're working with venomous in a small room. It's not given
for a lot of people, like that's one of those things, like it's the simple things, and that's why like all accidents are preventable. All bites are accidents, but that's not, nobody's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Nipper is one of the best venomous keepers in the world.
I think his example is a pretty.
His example is perfect.
Is a decent example of how
accidents can just happen.
And I mean, granted, he'll admit
he'll admit it's his fault. Yeah, it was his fault.
Like there was a lapse in judgment, and it was a very brief lapse, and he paid for it.
Yeah, but that's all it takes.
But it was there. Yeah,
that's all it takes is that half a second of that wrong move, misjudgment, whatever, and that's all it takes. That is all it takes. And
so I equated a lot to gun ownership and. Whether you consider that a political debate or not, whether you agree with it or not, that's neither here nor there. I feel the same about owning guns.
Yeah.
Like it is very easy to not have a negligent discharge, accidentally shoot yourself, accidentally shoot someone else. Like it's not hard to do. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're paying attention to what you're doing while you're doing it, there's very minimal danger involved. And it's the same with venomous. Obviously you're going to have your outliers. Like I was saying, like younger mambas, younger cobras, bothrop stuff. spazzier stuff in general, like you're going to treat that very differently than how you treat moving, eyelash vipers or squams or, copperheads, atrox, whatever story. Like there's a different level of expectations in working with that set of animals or animals like that than what you're dealing with here.
And you also have
and I understand like firearms, like that's an inanimate object. Like, yes, but somehow people still find a way to get themselves hurt.
But that's the thing, though. It's like it's really not that much different. I've been bit by a rattlesnake. I also came about 4 inches from getting my head blown off by my brother.
I remember the story.
Both very preventable, but both happened.
It was both a result of a
negligence,
brief second of
lapse of judgment.
Yeah,
it's granted one was my fault. I will fully admit that one was my fault. One was not, but both were that 1 second of not doing something you shouldn't be doing, and that's all it takes, and your life can change forever.
So
yeah.
Overall, I don't agree with the whole like you don't have control over if that happens or not.
No,
it's like you have complete control over if that happens or not. It's just a matter of how much are you actually paying attention to what you're doing when you're doing it. There are plenty of people that have kept venomous and have never been bitten.
Yeah, Phil's never been bit, has he?
No,
he's been keeping venomous for 20 years.
I don't think he's even had like a close call or like a scratch or anything like
that.
Yeah,
nothing. He's been keeping venomous for what, like around 20 years, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Then he talked about a cobra he's had for 15, 16 years, and it's never happened to him. And then you have guys like me who have never kept venomous but have still been bit. It's just like, it's one of those things, man. Like it's one of those things. I think I would fully trust you with keeping venomous. I've seen you work your non-venomous stuff. I've seen you work some of my stuff, like that scrub I had, watching how you just worked it, for a period, and you're like, yeah, I learned this from working venomous. And I was like, huh, it's impressive. Like you've learned different tactics, different things to do, and watching you work the copperhead and the atrox
not liking to get bit, period, whether it's non-venomous or not. It makes it very easy to avoid getting bit in general. Like,
right.
I don't even remember the last time I got like the last legit bite I got from a snake was from one of the Beox.
Yeah. Oh damn, that's been a while then. Not even one of the corns just nip you?
Not outside of like a baby.
Right.
Which like that I kind of expect, because it's like if I'm trying to pop them or something, like
it's hard to not get bit by babies, let's face it.
But in terms of like Jansenii, the Persimmon, any of that stuff, I don't like to get bit. Like I use hooks even on my the Persimmon. Anytime I got to do anything with them, the male especially, because Jesus, like I use a hook. It's because I don't feel like dealing with it's just, for me, it's just easier. I don't.
Right.
I
use a hook for disassociation purposes.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of my thing with it. I don't use hooks because I'm afraid to get bit. I use hooks to pick them up, for them to be like, oh, this isn't feeding. And then I slide my hand under them, call it a day, but with that being said,
and it's so frustrating because, I mentioned it on the 4th of July, I was talking to my parents and stuff about it, because we were talking about the whole debate of, is this trade worth it? And, of course I had extended family there too. And they're like, why do you even want to have that stuff?
Right.
And I always hate that question.
I hate that question
because it's like you can't explain it. There's no justification you can give to someone who
isn't
there's
in no
it that would
good
make
answer.
Any sense to them
as
to why you should have this stuff. It's like
it's the same reason that you want snakes in general. Because I get asked that, like, why would you have a snake in your house?
Right.
Let alone something venomous. It's the same answer. Because I like it. Because I love these things. Like, what do you?
And when I was keeping that stuff, if it came up in conversation at the cigar shop or something, or in general, people are like, oh, do you have anything, poisonous? I almost every time, unless it was someone I knew and talked to on a regular basis, no. Because the immediate follow-up question is like, why?
Why?
And it's like, then I have to figure out a way to explain it and not sound like a complete maniac. Because the only people that are going to understand why you do that and why you would want to are the people that are also doing it.
Right.
You know, it's the same reason. It's like skydiving. It's like, why would you want to jump out of a plane? It's like, I don't know, but it's something that isn't understandable by the general populace.
So
if that's what someone wants to do, awesome. I don't want to do that, but I'm not going to be like, you're an absolute idiot for wanting to jump out of a plane.
The biggest difference for me with something like skydiving versus keeping venomous, I don't think you should. I feel like people skydive because, let's face it, adrenaline rush is addictive. You know, that's a very addictive thing. But if you're keeping venomous simply for the adrenaline rush, I don't think you should keep venomous. That's not why you should keep venomous, because it gets your heart going. It does this for you. You should keep venomous because you love those animals, not because it gets you off. There's a big difference.
If you've got a raging boner while you're holding that gaboon viper, there's a problem.
And even that, you know, like if you have one of that, if you have that, that's fine, because it
just don't take pictures of it. No one wants to see that.
It excites you. If it excites you, that's fine. But if you're getting off on the fact that it's such like, oh, this adrenaline rush, blah, blah, that's why I got bit. That is solely why, because when I first started removing venomous snakes, it gave me an adrenaline rush that I had never had before, and I was addicted. I wanted to do it any chance I freaking got, and I got stupid.
Which, I mean, hey, it's great and all until
yeah,
that snake does something you did not want it to do,
exactly.
you did not expect it to do, and then all of a sudden you've got an extremely wiggly fucking Western Diamondback in front of you that does not want to cooperate in any capacity.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, that adrenaline quickly turns into oh shit, shit, and then you then have to be like, I when that happened, which it didn't happen a lot. Like I said, that animal, like, as soon as I figured out it was going to do what it was going to do, I was like, okay, if she comes out, she comes out.
Yep.
It's not going to hurt anything. She's not going to go anywhere. There's nowhere in this room that she could take off to that I could not get her. You know, it was like, if she wants to flip the fuck out, let her flip the fuck out.
Yep.
Like, you don't have to control that animal in like a 10 by 10 area. Like, if it wants to freak the fuck out and go off the table, let it go off the table.
Yep.
Just take a step back, take a breather, give it a second, and then come back to it. You know, like regroup, reevaluate.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's just one of those things where it's like, I already know what that follow-up question is going to be when people ask that, and I tell them. And so it's like, just, I avoid that, because it's also, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care.
Right.
Like, I was keeping that stuff because I find it fascinating. Like, I find venomous snakes amazing. That's like one of the most incredible natural phenomena.
Yeah. It really is.
That there is. Like, and to me, I mean, I still couldn't fully explain to you why I want to have that stuff.
It's a simple answer, though.
It's just something that I find, I love it. Like, I find them very interesting. I find it very, like, it's cool to me. It's not, it has nothing to do with, like, I don't want people to think I'm fucking crazy. I don't want people to think I'm some sort of nut. And I don't want people to think that I have random, loose snakes, venomous snakes, rolling around my house. Like, I just don't keep them in cages or something. I just I just avoid all of that and just don't even say anything. Be like, yeah, I keep corn snakes and some rat snakes and some, Asian stuff, which I also, when people ask, I don't typically go into extreme detail, because it's like a celeb's blacktail rat snake. Their eyes are going to glaze over by the time you're done saying celebs, so it's like, whatever. Like, I just say like corn snakes, because most people know what corn snakes are. I keep corn snake, keep some Texas rat snakes, and I keep some Asian stuff, and then, green tree pythons, or, and if they ask questions about those, and I kind of explain, it's like, it's a snake that sits on a stick and does absolutely nothing. Like,
green snake,
they're pretty, but that's it.
It's an arboreal ball python.
And, and it's just, A, I hate small talk. And
really
B, it's
do,
like,
though.
I hate having to explain it to people. It's like, I don't have to, it's not necessarily a justification that I feel like I have to give to people, but it's like, the reaction is the same. Every 10 times out of 10, when someone who is not into snakes asks you why do you keep snakes? Like, the questions and the follow-up questions to that are the same from every single person. And I always just kind of shrug my shoulders. Just like, it's just what I do, man. Like,
I don't.
Why would you want that in your house?
Fucking nerd.
Like, aren't you worried about huffing the lead paint and super glue that you use to put your little town? If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. Fun fact, though, I did have a friend actually as a kid whose dad was into the model train thing and straight up had a room with
dude,
like a landscape
that's a
and like
serious
it
thing.
was nuts. It
Dude.
was actually like I wasn't freaking impressive as shit. And I was like, this
Yeah.
is insane.
I
Like,
have,
how long did this take you to do the detail on some of that stuff?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god.
I have a buddy in Wisconsin. Him and his do it, but in Wisconsin they all have basements. You know, everywhere up north has a basement. And we went to their house, and their entire basement was made up of this massive
Isn't that wild?
train set of just landscape, beautiful, you know, setup, you know. And that's like, if a lot of people start like, because me, I'm okay with small talk. You know, if somebody wants to, if somebody wants to start talking smack, then I'm gonna be like, well, what do you like? What are you into? You know, and they're like, oh,
shoes,
model trains. I collect shoes. I collect
Nikes.
stuffed animals. You know, that, and I'm like, okay, why? Why do you do that?
Yeah.
Why do you do that? You know, and then if they say, oh, I saw a snake the other day, I ran it over. I'm like, you have a dog? They're like, yeah. I said, oh, I saw a puppy on the side of the road the other day. I ran it over.
I can't say that too loud. Archie's sitting right here.
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah. Obviously, I would never actually do that, but it's just one of those for people.
Everyone's got a thing.
You know, everybody's got a thing. Don't shit on mine because you don't understand it.
Don't make fun of my hobbies. I don't make fun of you because you're an asshole.
Yeah. Dick.
And I think, I mean, we have a better understanding of that because like
what we do is weird.
Into it. We get it.
You know, what we do is odd. It's not the norm, you know. And granted, more and more people I have
it's
gotten
becoming more and more normal.
Yeah, like I get obviously if I get the why do you do that, I get the same answer every time. But I've had several times that I've been like, yeah, you know, I breed snakes on the side, you know, it's my passion. They're like, oh, that's cool. What do you keep? I used to have a corn snake. I used to have this. My uncle did this, you know, and it turns out to be a cool conversation.
I tell people it's like keeping fish.
Yeah,
that's sort of the best,
the
best explanation I can give them that would make sense to where it puts
people are just less scared
you're not
of fish.
A lunatic. You know,
fish just aren't feared by
like,
as many people.
It's not exactly like keeping fish, but the concept more or less is still there. You know,
I'd consider it the same thing. You know,
same reason people have 5 bedrooms in a house filled from floor to ceiling with different plants.
Yeah.
You know,
why do you have plants? Why do you have 5 dogs?
Why do you have cactus? Those are dangerous.
Yeah. Why do you have 5 dogs? You know that dog can eat your child, right?
Yeah.
You know,
we get it.
It's all perspective.
I just don't like to. I just like to avoid that conversation for the most part. Overall,
I do too.
I don't like.
Yeah.
I like talking about this stuff, and I like.
If somebody's interested, you know.
But I don't like talking about it. If that makes sense, like in the right crowd and the people that, like you said, like the right people, it's fine. But for the most part, if I'm at like, you know, I'm at a party or something with, you know, we're going to Katie's friend's house or something, and it comes up, I just kind of like, I really downplay it. I'm just like, you know, I'll just keep some snakes. It's no big deal. Like,
that's the other thing.
It just consumes every spare minute of my life, every chance it gets.
So
I'm okay with it.
What do you say when somebody's like, how many snakes do you have? Do you just say, because I go to, I don't know, a lot.
I don't know.
You
I don't keep count. You know, I'd be like 100-ish. I don't.
Yeah,
but even then, I try not to even go there because then there's,
you know,
100 snakes. Because people are under the impression that you're like keeping berms.
Yeah,
and 100 berms, like,
or your whole house,
snake. But I'm like,
or your whole house
is
just covered in snakes,
small stuff. Yeah,
yeah, you know, it's.
But I've had plenty of people who came over too, and they, you know, they saw the room and they're like, oh, okay,
yeah.
Because when you tell people you have a room full of snakes, they're like, what? They're like, your wife must be a saint. I'm like, to a degree, yeah, because she has to deal with it. But it's also not what you think it is. I don't know why people immediately go to this whole like sex dungeon filled to the brim with berms.
Yeah,
some sort of weird.
Everything's blacked out. There's weird rituals going on inside of it. You know, it's like no, it's just a well lit room with a bunch of tubs.
Like, it's just like venomous.
It's not as impressive.
It's not
as you
that
think
exciting.
It is.
Yeah, it's really not what you think it is.
Right.
It's not that sexy.
No, it's really not.
Which to me, it's just, you know, like what me and Phil say all the time about venomous. It's like if it's not exciting, good. That's exactly the way it should be.
Yeah.
Like it's boring and it's not sexy, and it's not jumping out of an airplane mentally. Good. It shouldn't be.
You know what I consider more similar to keeping venomous than I do
Unprotected
like
sex with
guns?
strangers.
Sure. No, I was gonna say I compare keeping venomous more similar like than owning guns. I consider it more similar to riding a motorcycle.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I look at it a lot. Cause like Phil, and it really like hit home today when I was listening to Phil. He was like, you know, he did the move, he had a long day, you know, and he was like, he had to unpack the lapids, and he was like, you know what, I'm gonna let him sit overnight. I'm gonna get a good night's sleep. I'm gonna eat breakfast, smoke my cigarette, have a coffee, you know.
That seems like
Then
something
I'm
that
gonna
I
deal.
think people lose sight of. It's
Yeah.
like there's nothing, barring like immediate life-threatening medical emergencies, that cannot wait until tomorrow.
Yeah, and I look at when he said that, I was like, that's exactly what I do whenever I think about riding my bike.
Yeah.
You know, I go to the restaurant, people are like, oh, did you bring the bike today? I'm like, no. They're like, why? I'm like, I was tired.
You're not going to ride it
You
while
know?
it's raining.
No, I was
know?
tired. I wasn't feeling it today. You know, I didn't feel super well. I was in a fog today, so no, I didn't ride it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's none of their freaking. Oh, dude, it's such a nice day. I don't care if I'm
not the point.
foggy.
Right.
I'm not gonna ride because I'm not on my game. When
Yeah.
I get on that bike, all I am focused on is getting to my next destination.
Mhm.
Yes, I love it with every bone of my freaking being. You know, every part of me loves being on my bike. But if I'm not all there, I'm not gonna fucking do it. And that's exactly how you should treat.
If there was any like
same thing.
if it was you know, storms, if it was storming, didn't do anything with the venomous. If I wasn't feeling good, like if I was sick, you know, had a little cough, whatever, was again just feeling out of it, didn't do anything with venomous. Like, yeah, they need a water change. Cool, that can wait at least another day or two.
Can wait another day.
Be fine.
I can wait till you know the power's not going to go out, you know, in the middle of the night. Because you know, imagine that it's storming out. Oh, I gotta do venomous. You've got your Atrox out. All of a sudden, it's pitch black in your room.
Yep.
What are you gonna do? You know, that
you ain't gonna move it by sound.
No, you sure as hell ain't. You know, so it's just one of those things, man. You know, I look at it a lot like riding a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So if you ride a motorcycle, put that in perspective. You're thinking of getting venomous. You know,
I don't see. I've thought about getting a bike, but I have zero trust in the people on, you know, my fellow citizens on the streets.
That's the thing. I have zero trust.
So I'm not worried about me necessarily wrecking it and putting it, you know, laying it down in my driveway. But I am very much more concerned with getting absolutely creamed by some moron that's just not paying attention to what they're doing. Dude, have you ever like driven like on the interstate, like when we're going to, you know, BlackBox or whatever, and you ever like look around at the other cars around you?
I'm usually the one driving, so yes.
Do you see the number of people that aren't even paying attention to the fucking road?
Oh yeah.
Like, we went on a trip recently. I don't remember where we were going, but I was like, I just started like taking inventory of like, okay, out of these, you know, 6 cars around us, 10 cars around us, how many people are actually like both hands on the wheel, actually watching where they're going? And it wasn't that many. I was like, fuck, dude. Like, you see people, they're like on their phone, and it's like, I'm guilty of that every now and then. I've gotten actually really good about like my phone. It's on me, but I'm not like actually texting and stuff and, you know, changing songs, whatever. But like the number of people just on the interstate, dude, that are just like completely not paying attention. And like, I always wondered if I was driving and I see somebody doing that, like what would happen if I just laid on the horn?
Right.
Like all of a sudden they'd be like, oh shit. Like I'm on the interstate going 80. Like, just crazy, man.
And that's why
scary.
Like, because I got the same questions, you know, because again, like owning snakes a lot like owning a bike. People are like, why do you have that? Why do you do that? Because I love it, you know, because it's, you know,
it's the same thing as a bicycle. You're just going 50 times faster.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing. Like me, when I ride, I do a lot of things very specifically. They're small details, but I ride closer to the grass every time. If I need to go off, I'd rather go off into the grass than on the blacktop.
And into the
know?
the opposite lane.
Exactly.
The oncoming
You
traffic.
know, I always like you gotta
It's
think.
a tough choice.
You gotta think, yeah. You gotta think 12 steps ahead. It's the same thing with venomous, man. You gotta be prepared for anything. And I trust myself. That's my justification. I trust myself more than anybody else on the road.
Well,
And
my problem is I don't
drive
trust the other people around
I
me.
drive defensively every time I'm on the bike. I stay behind people. If somebody's riding my ass, I speed up, get around somebody, and get far away from them. I stay away from people. If somebody's coming up for a turn, I have my hand over the brake. Ready to go no matter what, man. And that's just how it is. You gotta know. You gotta know how it is.
You don't split lanes like a badass.
Absolutely not. I have never once split a lane.
It's like that's such a good, easy way to get absolutely
creamed. And it's funny, like a lot of I get a lot of motorcycle stuff on Instagram and stuff now. And I saw this one dude, he split lanes between two semi trucks. I'm talking, this dude had his bike in 3 inches on either side, just 100 miles an hour, right through these people. And he's like, don't do what I do. And I'm like, why does
it's
this
the free
sound
handlers
familiar?
Of the bike world.
I'm like, everybody's like, hey, I'm going to do this, but don't you do it.
I understand
stupid.
the people around me.
Right. But I'm going to record it and put it on the internet for you to see. It's like there's
I'm in touch with the people around me driving with these strangers. I know exactly what they're going to do.
There are so many overlaps between venomous keeping and riding a motorcycle. And it makes me laugh, man. But hey, whatever.
Well, we're at 2 hours. I got to piss.
I do too.
This episode was brought to you by blackboxcages.com. Use code THN at checkout. Save yourself a little bit of money. Then go over to fullviseapparel.com. Buy yourself some shirts. And then use the code FIREWORKS from now until July 9th. Get yourself 10% off your order. And Steve Snaketuary and his Venom hot sauce. Try them all. Grab them all. But most importantly, get that cottonmouth sauce. That is where it is at. I believe we're going to be back for Snakes and Stogies on Monday. We were going to do it Monday, and then Phil texted me that morning and was like, not happening. Got too much stuff to do because he's, still moving stuff around. Yeah. So I was like, whatever, man, take your time. So Snakes and Stogies should be happening Monday. It may not. I don't really know. I need to probably text Phil and see what was up. But other than that,
we should see y'all next week here.
Yes.
And we're going to try and get a guest line up. We've been bad about getting guests.
Rob Christian.
Rob.
We will get you.
Yeah, we are going to get him. We need Rob. We need Rob on. I've been wanting Rob on for a while.
Yeah, the schedules just haven't lined up.
Yeah, he's a busy guy.
I'm getting all them scrubs.
Yeah,
working
boy.
with all them scrubs,
dude.
Scrub daddy.
I still want scrubs, man. I want them so bad, but I want to want them so bad.
I want to want them
because I love the species. I love the species. I think they are incredible, but good fucking Lord, are they
just Eastern Kings? I want to want them.
You have to love them more than life itself to truly enjoy them.
I want to want them.
I don't know. Maybe one day I'll have scrubs again, but I don't know. I love my yellow rats too much.
They're the same thing.
Yeah, same thing, basically. Rico is just like a small scrub.
Just not as apt to go for the face.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you all for listening.
Bye.
Good night.